time, we all should be really concerned about the profound impact gender ideology has had on our school children, particularly girls. I would like to outline how gender ideology has swooped into our classrooms without much pushback. In the name of diversity, tolerance and inclusion, political indoctrination has been forced upon our youth. Just a little of my background first. I was brought up in Woodhouse Park, Wythenshawe, and remained there until early adulthood. Though I'm in the next borough now, the safety of women and girls in Manchester is really important to me. Examples of the gender in our schools will be drawn from what I have seen, the battles I've had with my own daughter's school, I've got 3 daughters, and from excellent write-ups by safeguarding groups, Safe Schools Alliance and Transgender Trend. If I rewind back to when I was a bright-eyed PGC student at 21, when I was sat in my first lecture, one of the first lessons I learned was, of course, on safeguarding. I've taken Ofsted's definitions. The main takeaway, if you will, from that first lecture, the key learning was that safeguarding is the responsibility of every adult. Not just the head teacher or the safeguarding lead, every adult. For this reason, I really feel schools need to do more to prevent further harm. Gender ideology has found its way into teacher training courses and into continuing professional development. I attended Getting the Language Right for 2022, a course led by the National Education Union and presented by political lobby group Educate and Celebrate. When creating equality policies, the CEO told us we are free to deviate from the Equality Act and make up our own protected characteristics. The CEO suggested that we remove the protected characteristic sex and replace it with gender identity. Hopefully, this is going to play.
Particularly well, because you can have this other package, in our school, respect each other's lengths, all of the different protected characteristics that you want on it, and have an agree button. And that is a direct thing, then if I don't agree, it's as simple as that.
Okay, so she was saying, put what you want on, and then you can see just to the left that her example is to remove sex and replace it with gender identity. Other advice included suggesting children say teacher instead of miss or sir, and saying pupils instead of girls and boys, and parent instead of mother or father. The training is delivered by one of the most trusted teacher unions. Is it any wonder our teachers are going along with this? The protected characteristic of sex needs to be present on schools' equality policies or statements. This is to ensure that girls are entitled to single-sex toilets and changing facilities from the age of 8. This will also ensure there is fair opportunity for girls in leadership roles, and it will allow schools to access data, assess data and accommodate to different learning needs of girls and boys. If gender or gender identity is used, the rights of girls are lost, because if a boy identifies as a girl, his gender identity could mean that he enters the girl's safe space, for example, which is indeed a major safeguarding risk. 2021's Ofsted report into sexual harassment found that girls were reporting upskirting, unwanted touching, rape jokes, and that sexual harassment was just part and parcel of their daily life. Schools must be able to secure single-sex spaces for girls, so this doesn't continue when they're at the most vulnerable. All you need to do is look at a local school's equality policy, and you will see if the school are representing the actual law or ideologist law what they want it to be. We really need the help of local councillors and MPs to ensure schools have the correct lawful equality policies in their schools. The belief system of gender ideology has been brought into schools by anti-safeguarding political lobby groups such as Stonewall, Educate and Celebrate, Mermaids, and Manchester's very own The Proud Trust. Since teachers are free to choose RSC resources, they have outsourced to the named lobby groups with, in my view, disturbing consequences. Instead of encouraging children to be whoever they want to be themselves without the need to alter themselves, ideologists use regressive sexist stereotypes and label children based on the clothes they choose to wear or their interests. It's only just starting to come to light the safeguarding failures of these groups, and it will take a long time to get them out of the school system. They have been promoted by local councils, celebrities, and even Ofsted and the Department for Education themselves. The Manchester-based company, The Proud Trust, funded by the National Lottery, tampon tax, Manchester taxpayers, promotes the idea of the trans child. The book Alien Nation, which you're free to have a look at your leisure, there's another dodgy book there as well, and used in my own daughter's school, shows a boy planet and a girl planet where children are sent to when they are born. It shows a non-binary planet for children who don't feel like either. It also shows bridges in trans colours, promoting the idea that one can change sex if they don't live up to regressive gender stereotypes. It introduces young children to ideological language such as cis, trans, non-binary and gender fluid. This is all contradictory of DFE guidance that RSE resources should be evidence-based and contain robust facts and statistics and be from a credible source. If we don't teach children that sex is real, we cannot teach about diverse families or same-sex attraction. It's not just formal lessons where indoctrination takes place, it's the signage placed around schools, the rainbows, the flags, the imagery of characters, and selling the idea that this community is a fun place to be, that this is something that they should be part of. You just need to read accounts from detransitioners to know that social and medical transition isn't the bright rainbow fairy tale it's made out to be. The Proud Trust, as Transgender Trend declare, have nothing to be proud of. Their safeguarding fails continue to stack up along with their questionable resources, youth groups that mix 13-year-old children with 25-year-old adults, and activist schemes within schools. I implore anyone who can to look into the Proud Trust grip in your area, lest the schoolgirls in Manchester forgo their rights under the guise of acceptance. Another aspect of trans activism in secondary schools, which is of great worry to me, is LGBTQ groups. We need to ask the following questions. Who is leading them? Is it an activist teacher, an activist student? Are there any boundaries to these groups? Do the teachers have specialist skills to deal with the vulnerable children these groups tend to attract? I've only scratched the surface of trans activism within our schools and focused on the Proud Trust as they are Manchester-based. There is so much activist material out there with the same themes. In fact, the Proud Trust have just released a new animation for Trans Awareness Week, which is full of propaganda. I'm sure there'll be a detailed write-up on that in due course. All of the activism within schools must have had a markedly influenced the vast increase of children wishing to identify out of their sex. In less than a decade, there has been over a 5,000% increase of girls being referred to the gender clinic in Tavistock, which is due to close. We know from the new NHS guidance that children who identify as trans have high incidences of coexisting mental health and neurodevelopment complexities. Whilst we await the full review from Dr. Hilary Cass, the NHS has released a new interim service specification for the 2 new clinics that will replace the Tavistock in London. Transgender Trend explained that it has huge implications for schools because no child should be socially transitioned in school without consultation with clinical professionals who are supporting the child, along with parents and carers. The service specification is very clear that teachers are not qualified to make a decision on the social transition of children. Teachers in schools will certainly not change their approach, I feel, until the DFE releases clear guidance linking to and taking new NHS specification into account. We need support of Manchester councillors and parents to keep the pressure on. The time of no debate is over. No longer have lobby groups got the full support of the public. Let's go back to the safeguarding principles from the beginning. Promoting transgenderism in schools, I am saying, fails on all counts of the safeguarding principles set out by Ofsted. Though we have a long battle ahead to get it out of our schools, I do feel we're getting there, we're heading in the right direction. We ask you councillors to join in the fight for our children because safeguarding is a responsibility of every adult.